In 1972, MIT scientists predicted society's collapse by 2040. Recent KPMG study suggests we're ahead of schedule. Advanced human civilizations have existed for about 10,000 years at most. During this time, many great empires rose and fell, leaving behind only artifacts and ruins. While historians struggle to pinpoint exact causes for these collapses, they generally fall into four main categories: political, social and cultural, environmental, and economic issues, the last being our main focus. Any civilization that's now just a footnote in history books fell due to some mix of these factors. Some collapses were almost instant, like Pompeii's destruction by volcanic eruption. Others took weeks, like the Aztec Empire's 93-day resistance against Spanish invaders. Some stretched over centuries, with 300 years separating the Roman Empire's peak from its eventual fall. Our modern civilization is unparalleled. It's thousands of times wealthier and more advanced than even the mightiest empires of the past could have imagined. If you're watching this, you have internet access, a knowledge source beyond the wildest dreams of scholars and kings just a century ago. The same goes for other modern conveniences we often take for granted: climate control, global travel, affordable and effective clothing, medicine, instant communication, abundant and safe food, running water, and even small luxuries like listening to your favorite song whenever you want. People often ask me, who's the richest person in history? The answer? Elon Musk. Or at least it was about a week ago when he was worth over $270 billion. That might have changed by the time you watch this. But what about Rockefeller, the Rothschilds, the Romanovs, or even Mansa Musa that people keep mentioning? What about them? Sure, they were wealthy for their time, but they lived in an era of widespread poverty. Despite their relative riches, they couldn't have imagined all the comforts you now take for granted. Trust me, if given the choice between my modern two-bedroom rental and a massive 15th-century French castle lacking air conditioning, proper plumbing, and safe food, I'd pick the apartment every single time. You'd be crazy not to do the same. And I haven't even mentioned war yet. Despite what you might think from watching cable news or browsing Reddit's front page, we're actually living in one of history's most peaceful eras. This peace is largely due to a mix of technology, education, and global teamwork. Even countries with underlying tensions depend on each other more today than the closest allies did in Napoleon's time. Why fight when you can get rich? It might sound shallow, but it's a good thing, even if it's not always stable. Comparing our current global economy to the greatest empires in history is like comparing a jet engine to a donkey. That's not an exaggeration, that's how far ahead we are today. But this progress comes with a problem. A jet engine might be faster and more powerful than a donkey, but it's less sturdy. One tiny flaw in its complex system could make the whole thing useless. Worse still, it moves so fast and flies so high that even a small hiccup could be disastrous. Most of us alive today, especially those watching online videos on smartphones, wouldn't know how to survive long without easy access to food, sometimes even delivered right to our door. But I'm getting ahead of myself, and I might start sounding like a crazy doomsday prepper yelling that the end is near. So, let's break down exactly how this MIT study predicted society's collapse. What measurable factors did MIT look at to decide if the world was heading in a good or bad direction? Now, let's talk about a groundbreaking MIT study called The Limits to Growth. Its main goal? To figure out if we're using Earth's resources sustainably. Spoiler, we're not. This study was a pioneer in using computers for economic modeling, employing dynamic system models. This might sound familiar today, but remember, this was happening in the 60s and 70s. Computers back then looked like giant filing cabinets and had less processing power than your average toaster. Despite these limitations, the MIT team created World 3, a computer model of the entire global economy. It factored in everything from population growth to industrial capacity, and crucially, how these elements interact. For instance, a bigger population needs more of everything: food, water, homes, you name it. But it also means more brain power for innovation. We're more likely to find the next Einstein or Edison in a world of 8 billion than in the 2 billion population we had a century ago. Economists often joke that tweaking one part of the economy affects at least 3 others. Sometimes we simplify by assuming ceteris paribus, all other things being equal. This helps us isolate cause and effect. For example, a soda tax hikes prices and reduces demand for sugary drinks, all else being equal. But reality isn't so neat. Nothing stays the same just because it's easier to model that way. Predicting the future is tricky business, especially when it comes to complex systems like the global economy. The World 3 model tried to account for these intricate relationships, painting a picture of how our world might evolve over time. It considered factors like resource depletion, pollution, and technological progress. The results were sobering, suggesting that if we continue on our current path, we might face serious challenges in the coming decades. But remember, Models are tools, not crystal balls. They help us understand potential outcomes and make informed decisions. The real value of the Limits to Growth study lies not in its specific predictions, but in highlighting the need for sustainable practices and long-term thinking in our approach to global development. Forecasting the future is a delicate balance. It can be the best of times when done right, but nearly impossible if you overlook key factors. That's where World 3 stepped in. This program aimed to model everything from birth rates to farming tech. The idea? All these elements are crucial for our modern lifestyles, but they're interconnected and prone to feedback loops. While the World 3 model juggled hundreds of variables, it focused on tracking just 5%. Population, industrial output, food production, available resources, and pollution. Remember, this was 1972. Climate change wasn't even on most scientists' radars yet, let alone a widely recognized issue. These variables are clearly interdependent. If one shifts, the others follow suit, all else being equal. But consider this. Which scenario sounds more alarming? A population decline leading to less food production, or dwindling food supplies causing a population drop? Two very different pictures, right? Now that we've got a handle on interpreting the data, what did the report actually say? Well, it painted a sobering picture of our future if we continue on our current path. The model suggested that we might face significant challenges in the coming decades. The real value of the Limits to Growth study isn't in its specific predictions, but in highlighting the need for sustainable practices and long-term thinking in our approach to global development. The research primarily focused on a few outcomes that fell within the standard deviation of all potential scenarios. The first and potentially most optimistic outcome was dubbed the comprehensive technology scenario. This model assumed we'd continue living as we do today, but with technology progressing rapidly enough to ensure our productive capacity could keep pace with the needs of a growing population. This scenario painted a future where innovation solved many of our pressing issues. It suggested that advancements in areas like renewable energy, efficient resource use, and sustainable agriculture could help us maintain our quality of life without depleting the planet's resources. However, it's important to note that this outcome relied heavily on consistent technological breakthroughs and their widespread implementation. This perspective highlights the potential for human ingenuity to address global challenges. While the current trajectory is concerning, it's not necessarily our inevitable fate. The key lies in recognizing the urgency of our situation and channeling our efforts into sustainable solutions and technological advancements. However, relying solely on future innovations is risky. It's crucial to balance technological optimism with immediate action to address environmental and social issues. This could involve investing in renewable energy, promoting sustainable practices, and rethinking our economic models to prioritize long-term stability over short-term gains. We're already witnessing this shift, with a massive increase in renewable technologies entering the consumer market. While we still face challenges, particularly in waste management, we've made significant progress compared to just 10 years ago. Rather than offering my personal predictions, I encourage you to read the two reports yourself for a more informed perspective. As always, thanks for watching, mate.